Well, hi everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to the Opening Minds podcast. Happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining me. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the federal government's UAP UFO report that came out on Friday, June 25th, 2021. A lot of people, I got the feeling, felt disappointed by the report. They wanted more specifics in there. They wanted a lot more detail. It was only 9 pages long, but there's a couple things we need to keep in mind. First of all, it's just a declassified version of a much longer report. We're told that the longer report had a lot more detail in it, photographs, members of the U.S. government that had security clearances were shown a 40-minute video, which allegedly some said was like watching a science fiction film, 40 minutes of UFOs. You can imagine that with all of the detail that you would get from satellites and, state-of-the-art military sensor systems, cameras, and so forth. So there was a longer report, but I felt that the declassified report did a lot. It basically said there's something out there, we don't know what it is, and it's something we need more resources to study. It's important, and the subject deserves more scrutiny. It could be a hazard to airline flight safety. The report went through a number of possible explanations for these 144 objects that are mentioned in the report. Only one had an explanation they could say for sure, which was the good old weather balloon, right? There you go. You got to have the weather balloon in there. A deflated party balloon or something like this. But I think now the rest of the report talked about, foreign drone technology, secret U.S. projects, the usual suspects. But it did have this category of other. Now, this is a big change from previous reports. The previous studies from the U.S. government, going all the way back to Project Sign, which was the best of them, were you remember the engineers from Wright-Patterson in 1947 came to the conclusion that the debris from this Roswell wreckage was indeed extraterrestrial. They signed their names to this report, and they said it could be extraterrestrial. But that was the last we heard of it. Everything else from there, Project Grudge onward, just said there were conventional explanations, all the way up to the Condon Committee report in 1969, which the Air Force ordered to close down. They wanted to shut down Project Blue Book, and they wanted a civilian committee to give them the go-ahead to do this. And Condon, basically said what we've heard so many times. But there's just nothing to this. It doesn't have any scientific significance. It's almost entirely explainable away by conventional explanations. And Project Blue Book had come to a similar conclusion. Even though they had like 20% unknowns, they said there, well, if we had more information, we could probably explain them away. But this most recent report from the UAP Task Force, this is the first time we've had serious government response to this topic, and they did not say they could explain it away. They didn't say if we just had more information, we could explain it away. They left it in the category of other. So I think that's a big, it's a big change right there, and they left the door open for more research, more information. But it got even better by the end of the day because the Deputy Secretary of Defense of the Pentagon issued a memo to all, I believe it said, commanders of the military in all 4 branches. Kathleen Hickson, I believe her name is, said, we want to receive any UAP UFO reports that you're observing, and you have to send it to the UAP Task Force within 2 weeks. We've never had that before. That's that's kind of incredible. They're basically saying you have to report your UFOs, you have to, from all branches, you have to kind of get your collection and reporting systems together. It was a kind of a statement to collect data in a uniform way. We know the Air Force has not been very forthcoming over the decades, to put it mildly, about any of their information. They haven't contributed, Air Force hasn't contributed anything to the recent efforts that we've seen publicly from incidents. I mean, these Navy pilots have encountered these objects over their military operating areas. Well, what about the Air Force? They use the same training areas. So I thought that was a big accomplishment. Now, what we could expect next, if this keeps on building, is more witnesses to come forward. This is something I've said many times, and I think it's very important to many witnesses out there. I've spoken to some of them. You haven't heard from them yet. They have a lot of good evidence, lots of strong evidence, physical evidence in some cases. They could be sharing this. The UAP report on the 25th did mention sociocultural stigma, this idea that people are afraid to share their sightings and information because of fear of ostracism and impacts on your career, that whole thing, and that could flip around. We live in a time of lots of different types of media, lots of ways for people to get information. This could become a sought-after commodity, is witness sightings. So instead of being ostracized, people could be, it can have a real positive aura around it of having seen one of these objects and doing your job and reporting it. So I think this could lead to what we call a virtuous cycle, not a vicious cycle, but a virtuous cycle, where we get more information. People are encouraged to come forward. People, your neighbors, relatives, sharing information that they've been reluctant to share in the past because of the perceived negative consequences on their life. So that's what I think the significance of this is at the moment. This is a developing story, and it could mark a turning point in how our society looks at the larger universe. I mean, it's a big universe out there, even a bigger multiverse. So what other life forms are out there? And are we observing some of them right now? So these are very, in our oceans and our skies. Very good questions. I think this is off to a great start, and I look forward to sharing more information with you. So thanks a lot. Take care for now, and we'll see you in the next Opening Minds podcast. Bye.